Well, welcome everybody. So I guess we can go ahead and get started. Um, I'm Scott Carlson. I'm a professor of biology and of neuroscience at Luther College. I'm in my 20th year now, and so I've been doing this for a while. I teach human physiology and neuroscience along with general biology, and so in those capacities, I tend to deal with a lot of the pre-med in particular individuals, along with pre-occupational therapy, somewhat pre-physical therapy, dentistry, optometry, and so most of the pre-health in general. We also have joining us today Dr. Kirk Larson, who is the chair of the biology department. We have Dr. Brian Heister along too. He teaches genetics, cell, and molecular biology, and so he can address questions like that along those lines. And we have one of our students who is graduating in a few weeks virtually, of course, and that's Hannah Clark, who will be going to a DO program, which is identical to an MD program down in, where did you decide, Hannah?
So sorry, I'm going to Arkansas College.
It's Arkansas still, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys, we'll have time to answer questions, and you can pose questions to Hannah too, because she can give you a great overview from a student perspective where we can talk about the academic component. She can talk to you about what life at Luther really is like. So I'm going to share my screen here. If I can figure out where, oh, there it is. And so how I think we'll do it is I can only see like one or two people, so Dr. Larson's going to kind of watch. If you guys have questions, don't be afraid to just jump in. Just unmute yourself, jump in. That is totally fine. Feel free to interrupt. I know with Zoom, it gets really confusing because of the exchange and all of that and the lag times. You can also raise your hand if you click on the participants at the bottom and do raise your hand, or you can just type in the chat. And I can't see any of that right now with my screen being shared. But he'll monitor those and we'll address questions, and there'll also be time for questions at the end. So can everybody see my screen where it says Luther College right now? Thumbs up. Okay, good. All right, so I've given you a little bit of an introduction to myself and to the other faculty and who are on the Zoom call here, along with Hannah Clark. And so I kind of want to just talk a little bit today about things related to biology, pre-health, neuroscience, cell molecular focus, which is an interesting title. And so I'm not going to focus on every major. I know there's going to be a variety of different majors that who might be interested in pre-health. There's no requirement that you were ever a science major to focus on pre-med or any aspect of pre-health. But just out of interest, most students tend to be science majors. But we're going to talk kind of about the majors, then we'll talk about pre-health at Luther College. Then we're going to talk about kind of how this all fits together to prepare you for your future. And finally, again, we'll have time for questions at the end, okay? So the first thing I'll just mention is biology. Now, I've taught in the biology department. This will be my 20th year, like I said. And so I'm not going to talk a lot about the specific major of biology. We're one of the largest majors on campus. And I would say probably half of our students who come in are interested in health sciences along those routes. There's a lot of interest in graduate schools. We have going off into a variety of different avenues also. Pharmaceuticals, sales, pioneer seeds, ag, field work, and so there's an array of different areas that our biology majors will go off into. And so we can talk a little bit more about that major if we want at the end as well. Now, I had noticed that a variety of you, or a number of you, were interested in neuroscience, so I do want to talk for a minute about neuroscience major. And the neuroscience major is newer. This is our third year at Luther. I was one of the individuals who helped start it. There were 3 of us in the faculty who worked together to form this major. And what I love about neuroscience is this blend of psychology and biology, kind of what we call the hard sciences and the social sciences. And if you can see this little illustration up here, it shows the dynamics of neuroscience, and it's this cross overlap between these. And if you were to look at areas which you can study within the domain of neuroscience, that's what all these, you probably can't see it on your screens, but there's a huge array of different subdisciplines of neuroscience. It's a vast area, it's rapidly growing, and it's, in terms of the publication rate and the growth of that, it's been one of the largest growth patterns in the last decade. And so it's an exciting area, it's a complex area, it's an area we still know very little about, which is amazing when we think about the dynamics of the brain and how it works. And so when we look at the neuroscience major, because we have this blend of neuroscience and psychology, that's how the major is as well. And so you're going to see, if you look at the major, we require elements of both. We require, you'll see there are principles of biology, you'll see human physiology and experimental neuroscience, my neuroscience course. Then you're also going to see some courses in psychology as well. General psychology, brain and behavior. We also require a statistics course. And then we require you to take additional coursework in the categories of psychology and biology. And chemistry, computer science, so you'll see there those two different categories, and I won't talk about the specifics of those, but based on your interest, then you can kind of select which of those categories that fits with your personal interest, and then you can take additional coursework out of those. So that's the neuroscience major. Another major, because we have so many students who are interested in health, I threw this one in as well, even though it's not in the title, because this is a brand new major that's come online this fall, and that's the global health major. I'm really interested in this. I was also on the committee that helped bring this into play, and it's been a couple years in the making. It's ironic, I guess I would say, that it's being implemented in the time of the COVID virus, because a lot of global health is dealing with infectious diseases and how do you deliver healthcare to those conditions, as well as how do you bring that healthcare to the different populations of the world, whether they be underrepresented populations within the US or in different countries with different cultural norms. And so what I love about this major is it's a very, very broad focus. And I love this from a pre-med standpoint in particular, because students have to take history of medicine and medical anthropology and epidemiology and politics of global health and policies. So I love this one. It also requires an experiential opportunity where you go abroad or somewhere to an underserved population in the US, and you spend a J term, a semester or a summer in that setting, learning about the delivery of healthcare to whatever that setting is and the challenges that go along with it. And so this is an exciting one to me as well, and we can talk more about that later on. So just to kind of conclude this quick overview of majors before we get into the pre-health focus, as I said at the start, there are a variety of different majors that you can pursue if you're interested in health sciences. And not everybody I know here is going to be interested in health sciences. I'm just kind of going off of the information I've been given. But maybe we can take a minute here to talk about the actual majors before we go into the pre-health focus at Luther. So why don't we do that? So if you have a question about anything, raise your hand or click your chat button or do something and wave your arms madly about or something like that. I'll stop sharing my screen and I can actually see you guys. Let me see, it's up there. So are there questions about majors in general? And our faculty can jump in, and Hannah can jump in here. I'm looking for any waving arms. I don't see any waving arms yet, or unmuting yourself and just jumping in.
Does Luther have a biochemical major?
Luther does have a biochemistry major. It's a newer major. I think, is this the first year, Kirk or Brian? The second year?
It's been around for a couple of years, but it's a track within the chemistry major, isn't it? Or is it a special biochem major? I can't remember
It's a track within the chemistry major where
Right.
It takes elements of biology, the cellular components. And Brian, I think you're probably more involved with that, aren't you?
Not directly. I
Okay.
think some students will end up taking courses that I teach. The higher level courses are molecular biology, and cell biology has a lot of overlap with biochemistry.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm not directly involved in the biochem major.
Yeah, the molecular and cellular are both electives within the biochem major.
Right.
So
Did that answer, was that Madison? Who was that?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
me.
Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Other questions? Don't be afraid to unmute and jump in because we got a screen, we got to zoom all around here to try to see faces really quick. And so it's easy to miss you guys. Okay, well, let's continue on then and we'll talk about, oops. There we go. We'll talk about pre-health at Luther. So pre-health, as you may or may not be aware of, pre-health, when we talk about pre-med or pre-OT, we aren't talking about actual majors. We're talking about basically a college having the necessary prerequisite courses to gain admission into any professional program. And so, so we have all of the requisite coursework that would be required for basically any different pre-professional program out there. Most of our students come to Luther with an interest in pre-medicine. And after that, I would say physical therapy is next, followed probably by dentistry, then optometry and pharmacy. A few with pharmacy and vet med. Nursing, we have a large nursing program here. I'm not going to talk to that. That's a whole different department and a whole different program because it is an actual major where you come out certified. And so it's a different beast of its own. So I'm going to just kind of give a quick overview, not specifically necessarily of the individual pre-whatever components. We're going to talk kind of about the general commonality of how you prepare for this. And then at the end, we can talk about specific questions about medicine or PT or whatever. Okay? All right, so if we think about preparing along the lines for any of the professional schools, and we could say some of this, a lot of this applies to graduate schools as well. And so some of you may have interest in graduate programs. There are kind of three different dynamics I always think about in this preparatory process. Number one is academic preparation. Number two is going to be academic advising, and experiential preparation will be the third. And so I'm going to kind of break these out into different slides.
You can be upstairs.
All right, so first of all, in terms of academic
I'll come
preparation.
talk to you about it.
That's for 115.
Yeah, for 115, it'll be during the
Kirk?
first.
Kirk, can you mute, please? Thank you.
I thought
Okay. All right, so anyway, in terms of our preparation, like I said, the coursework is one critical aspect. And so as you think about your progression onto whatever professional program or graduate program you're interested in, one of the things you're going to need to be thinking about is what is the preparatory coursework that's required for admission into that. We offer, like I said, we offer all of the necessary courses. They are academically very rigorous. We have a great reputation for that. And so whether it's in biology or neuroscience or psychology or some other aspect, biochemistry, we have a very, very strong academic reputation. And so we will challenge you. We're going to push you hard. As we watch students matriculate off to these fields and take their professional entrance exams, we can observe that we do a good job preparing. And so I would note that we have the strength of an academic program, we have the necessary course work out there for admission to the program, and we also have a large selection, whether it's in biology with an array of different courses, more than you would have time to take during your time at Luther. So we have a great selection, and we will push you hard academically, which is going to be necessary as you prepare for the rigorous nature of a professional school program afterwards. So that's just a quick thing about our courses. Now, I mentioned before, we also have to have experiential preparation. And when you think about experiential preparation, one of the things you need to be thinking about as you get ready to go into college and then start your journey towards whatever professional school or graduate school that you are seeking, you need to be thinking about life outside of the classroom in the context of experience. And that's going to be through internships, one of the mechanisms. Those internships can be in medical fields. So here's a group of my goofy students before. You can see right here, these were over working in an adjacent clinic as part of our January internship program. And so the biology department has a J-term program, which is an intensive 4-week or 18 days technically, but these students usually are about 3.5 to 4 weeks in a clinic, working 40 hours a week, and they're observing an array of different physicians in a variety of different settings. And so here's a time when they had all learned how to make casts in the clinic, and so they all put casts on themselves. And so 2 of those individuals are now, 3 of them actually are now in medical school, and 1 is a technician. And so you can also see a research or internships can exist in the research setting. And we can see up here with a large microscope, this is one of my former students, Abby, who's up at the University of Minnesota, was in a pediatric clinical research laboratory for the summer, doing some research experience. And then down here is another one of our students, who I'm blanking on her name right now, who is working with wildlife rehabilitation. So we offer an array of opportunities for internships, whether it be clinical or research or other related to whatever academic or career goal that you're interested in. So that's a really, really important part about this whole process towards professional school. And we'll talk more a little bit at the end about that. Another aspect about what I would qualify as experiential is research opportunities. We all have PhDs. We all do research of some type. And so there's an array of different research opportunities on campus as well too. For those thinking graduate school, this is, excuse me, really important. It's a critical component to be successful in matriculating onto graduate school. For those who are thinking health sciences, this is also a very important part of your undergraduate study. And for those who aren't thinking graduate or professional school, this is also a great opportunity for you to see how our knowledge is advanced and to inspire you and maybe direct you accordingly. And so we have an array, like I said, an array of different excuse me, research opportunities that students will be involved with faculty. Students are able to present their research at local, regional, or national, or even international meetings. We have a student or a couple students this semester in bio doing that, although I think the COVID now has shut that down. But frequently students will travel to present their research. And that also helps give the experience that would be necessary for spending additional time at a large-scale university for research in the summer as well. So it's a great opportunity to see how science is done as well. We also, and I think this is really exciting, this is a new endeavor that we just started this year, this spring actually, where we had students who are living in Rochester for the semester, Rochester, Minnesota, and they are working connected there with the Mayo Clinic and biomedical research laboratories. This is a really fun, dynamic new program. It isn't just entirely about Mayo. We have students who are up here looking at city planning. Mayo has this large-scale growth that they are collaborating with the state of Minnesota to what they call Destination Medical Center to bring more and more people there in biomedical industry there. And so our students, we had 3 in neuroscience, 3 of our neuroscience majors there this semester, spending full time in a research laboratory doing biomedical research. And that's going to be foundational in terms of their ability to go on to, 2 of them want to go to graduate school and 1's going to go to medical school. And so it's a great opportunity to spend a significant amount of time participating in research or other aspects that are involved with this destination project. So very exciting opportunity. Another thing I would point out, when I think about experiential, we often think about, well, we got to get clinical and research experience. But I think there's another element to experiential that exists outside of this, and this has to do with our very, very dynamic study away program. One of the things I think is really cool about Luther is got probably one of the most vibrant study away programs that I'm aware of, where we have 70 to 80% of our students participating in some form of study away trip. And that can be, we call it study away because a lot of those can be scattered around the United States. In the biology department, for example, we have students who go to the Southwest and they go to the Four Corners regions in the Southwest and look at the ecology of the Southwest, of the deserts. Here's a group of students right here you can see who are in the Boundary Waters in January. And they're learning about winter ecology and how do organisms up in these cold climates, how do they sustain life, and what's the ecological systems there. We also have a couple other trips. Here's one with divers. This is down in Roatan, Honduras. It's an island off the coast of Honduras. And Dr. Larson, who's on our Zoom call right here, or session, brought a group down to look at coral reef biology this past year. And he's done this for years, usually in the Bahamas, but they switched to Roatan after a hurricane damaged the normal Bahamas station where they go. So they spent 2 weeks straight diving underwater, looking at coral reef and restoration and conservation mechanisms there for coral reefs. On the right side is a trip I took to the same island. Actually, interestingly, there were two different Luther groups on the island of Roatan this past year. I brought a group down, and part of the focus of that group was for students to participate in volunteering in a clinic on daily internships. And we also had other groups that were volunteering in the local school systems, and some that were working with conservation and ecology groups down there, looking at coral reef biology, general environmental sustainability, and movements there. And so these are just examples. We have lots and lots of study abroad, and so students who are interested in biology may take one that's biologically focused. They may take one that's not biologically focused. Students who are interested in medicine or healthcare of some type might take one that they might participate in one that has a healthcare focus, or they might not. I think it's just a great experience because it shows you a different part of the world, and it shows you dynamic things about yourself as you travel to different destinations and with a cadre of your peers. And so I think it's a wonderful opportunity and a great time for personal growth and challenging yourself as you experience cultures and worlds that are very different from our own. So I think it's really, really cool. So I just put a plug in for that as well. So if we were to jump back here, we've talked kind of briefly about academic preparation. We've talked about the experiential opportunities that we can provide at Luther. I do want to mention, though, this academic advising, because that's an essential part of your growth, too. At Luther, faculty will serve as your advisors. And so it's a very easy process. You're assigned somebody, usually within the sciences or your field, and then you will select after the first semester, you'll kind of hone in. As your interests change, you can easily change to a different advisor. And that's really, really important, because your advisor does, that relationship helps you in a variety of ways. And I just grabbed this off the webpage about advising. Part of it is to help you as you matriculate through the college's curriculum. But part of it is also to work with you on different academic skills or different career explorations, or to help guide you so you're taking the right coursework that will help then fulfill your long-term career goals. And so the thing I love about Luther here is that we work together as a team. And so if I have a student who comes to me and I don't know the answer in terms of how to guide them for a certain career area or in terms of certain courses, I'll send you to my colleague right across the hall here or the study lounge, and they can guide you as well. And so we'll have students coming to us all the time for either official advising meetings or unofficial advising. From a pre-med standpoint, I've worked with an array of different students who are not biology majors, and I'm not their actual advisor, but I meet with them periodically to make sure they're on track. And so that's what we do, and that's a really, really important part of this college experience, to make sure that we're preparing adequately, we're on track for everything, not just graduation, but to help you be successful in heading towards your after Luther life. So that's advising. And the last thing I do want to mention, and this is really important, when we think about college, we talk about the academic components and we talk about the experiential and everything like that. But college is that, and it's more. And so I did want to put a slide on here to talk about the extracurricular, because that's really an important part of your experience. I've had 2 kids in college now. They're both actually at Luther. One transferred here after being on the East Coast for a couple of years. And so it's been fun to watch them, though, do this. But extracurricular, this community you build, which is what I think defines Luther as being so unique, is we are really a community. And so that's why I put that on there. And that community is formed by not only your your classroom contacts, but it's through your involvement in a variety of clubs and organizations. It's through involvement in the music program. We have a ginormous music program here. And so we have a tremendous number of students. Most are not majors. They just do it out of interest. We also have a dynamic athletic program here that students will be involved in. So that's going to be another area where you form this community. And even in on-campus work, this not only helps you make some money or pay for your college through work study, but you get to know a lot of people. You get to know staff, which is a really, really fun and interesting opportunity, and one that students don't always take advantage of. You also get to maybe learn some skills through that. I have students who will work with me in helping with my physiology labs. They're going to help set up. They're going to help under my guidance in the lab and answer questions. And so they'll work hand in hand with me in the laboratory setting, and all of us utilize students in that capacity. So it's a great experience, not only for raising money, like I said, but to further your knowledge and be exposed to a leadership position in these opportunities. So, and again, all of these really are foundational to your college experience. And so I would just note that. And so the last two things I just want to mention is, if you think about all of this, one of my colleagues found this from an employer survey, what employers are seeking. And I like this because really this is what Luther will prepare you for. We're going to prepare you academically, and we design our classes and our majors so that we can grow these dynamics. Now, obviously, each of us will have different blends of these. Some of us will be more prone to leadership overtly. Some of us are less leadership. That's okay. We're not going to be all of these things. We can't be. But we're going to help you to grow in these areas and encourage you and through your time at college. And I love the part that I really love is that it's a relational thing. And I think Hannah can talk about that at the end here. One of the things I think that that the liberal arts, especially I think at Luther here, is that it's very relational. Faculty know their students. And so during the 4 years here, I'll have them in 2 or 3 courses. I'll see them out in the study lounge. I'll interact with them a lot. And so we get to know them. We get to help guide them in these as they go through the courses. We get to help them develop these skills. And so it's a wonderful aspect. For those who are thinking graduate and professional schools, again, academic preparation is critical. It's important also, and I've already talked about this, that you have the clinical and research exposure to get you to be successful in your application process. Of course, there are elements we can't control. And so these are just different traits. This is directly from the University of Iowa, the Carver College of Medicine, things they look for in physicians. And I think we could say that most of these apply also for any healthcare setting and for graduate school. And so, in the take-home message, I would say is we can prepare you well for this. And so, but we have nothing magic, and I always say that. There's nothing magic about Luther. We have a very rigorous program. We provide all the opportunities needed, but there are elements that are beyond our control, and those are things that we're going to help you develop and work to help you develop in your time here. So I know it's been a whirlwind of stuff here. I've talked a lot about all of these different aspects, and so I think it's time for me to stop blabbing, and then we can open up the microphones, answer questions. And if you have questions, if you have a particular individual you want to raise it to, like Hannah. Hannah's the student who is a senior at Luther. Just give a shout out to Hannah or to Dr. Larson or Heister or myself, and we're happy to answer your questions. Yeah, Nathan's got one, I see.
I had one regarding neuroscience.
Yes.
So personally, I'm pretty interested in like psychology, neuroscience area, but not necessarily in pursuing a pre-health program or health career. So I was just kind of wondering what other pathways there are around that field and or just in learning at Luther.
Yeah, and one of the things, so one of the things about majors, sometimes they directly tailor you toward a certain career. And neuroscience can be that. It can be for medical school, graduate school, physical therapy is a common one for neuroscience. There are other times, though, where it's not quite as obvious. And we have students, we're fairly new in the neuroscience process. So far, I've seen the majority of our students head to either professional school or graduate school, but we do have students heading to other areas as well. And unfortunately, I can't think right now because it's such a new major, but what I always tell students is part of what you're getting in a major is a skill set. And that skill set kind of goes back to what I talked about right here or listed here. Wait, let me see. There we go. We're trying to give you a skill set to learn in neuroscience, how to communicate, how to take data, how to read primary literature, how to take all of these things. And as you grow these skills, that helps you to, as you head toward whatever the career field you will be. In terms of neuroscience, so we have students who go to law. We have students who can go into environmental policy. And so it's not going to be just neuroscience related. And I don't know, Kirk or Brian, if you have anything you would add to that.
I mean, just talking with students that are in the neuroscience major that maybe don't want to go to medical school, I would think that maybe some of them are interested in psychological research. So going to graduate school for something more on the psychological end of things. Psychiatry, counseling are other things that I hear students interested in terms of why they're interested in going to neuroscience. And I think there are a whole other bunch of career directions that way that are really independent of med school.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. That's helpful.
Sure. And don't be afraid to unmute. Like I said, we can't see everybody, so we just see like 4 or 5 at a time.
Scott, we had a couple of questions on the chat. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of. One was a question about Luther having a HOSA chapter, which is a health occupational student activities club. We don't, but we do have a health sciences club. I don't know, Hannah, do you want to talk a little bit about health science club?
Yeah, so Health Sciences Club is basically this association of students that get together and we talk about an array of fields within biology, neuroscience, all other sections of science within Luther. And we have guest lectures. We have a suture clinic, which is really fun, actually. A lot of other things. And we even talk about professional schools or how to even have good interviews to get into whatever you're going to next. It's a really good thing to get involved in, and it really helps students along their path. Hopefully that answered the question.
I do see one question here from Mackenzie about occupational therapy and what major is suggested. So Mackenzie, occupational therapy, really that's, again, an area that you can major in anything. I would say the majority of students major in psychology because occupational therapy programs require at least 3 psychology courses, although they also do require biology, usually physiology and anatomy as well. So, but I would say probably the majority do major in psychology.
Thank you.
There's been a couple questions about, one about online classes, you know, how they're going right now and kind of what the plan is for this fall. They're definitely not ideal, but I think, you know, all 3 of us, Carlson, Easter, myself, are all doing it as well as we can. I know for myself, I'm doing virtual labs online, trying to post videos of, I happen to work with insects, so I am posting videos of various types of insects, and the students have to observe them and then, you know, quantify some data based on what they're seeing. And I think it depends, you know, I've posted audio clips of crickets chirping and they have to analyze data, that type of thing. It's definitely not as fun as taking students out in the field and seeing them trip and fall into the stream, but it definitely is okay. It's definitely not ideal, but for fall, the plan is, that just came out, is we are planning on bringing first-year students to campus in September. And they will be doing kind of a 1-month class on campus. And then starting early October, all the other upper level students will be returning. And we're actually going to start the fall semester at the beginning of October. And courses will be in person is the plan. Hopefully without having to send people back home at some point. But kind of taking 2 classes at a time over 7 weeks instead of 4 classes, which would be kind of the normal over a full semester. But Nathan, I see you got your hand up. You can unmute. Yeah.
I was just gonna follow up on that because that's the first I'm hearing about possible plan for the fall. Is there a internet page or something where we can find more information on that, or do you think it'll be sent to us relatively soon?
Yeah, go ahead, Kirk.
I'm assuming that there will be communication from the college officially to the students. It just has gone out officially to the faculty in the last day, and we're still in the middle of scheduling how those courses are going to work and which ones are going to be available. But you will be hearing about it. And so the plan is to bring students back to campus, and we're trying to figure out if we do have to do social distancing, you know, students wearing masks in classroom, you know, and faculty, you know, that's probably going to be more the norm until things kind of settle down on COVID. But we are trying to do, you know, we do want to bring people here because being here in Decorah is one of the reasons why we're all here. And, you know, be it on campus. So that's the best I can tell you at this point. But I'm sure you'll be hearing something at some point soon, you know, regarding the fall.
Right.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
And the president, I think the goal is for sure by June 1st, they wanted this word out to everybody. And I don't know if it'll occur before that. There's a lot of behind the scenes details they had to work through. And so the faculty was one part, figuring out courses and all of that. But yeah, so I would say probably within the next 2 weeks, I would think that they'll have those releases out.
Meehan.
Oh, go ahead.
Meehan asked about undergraduate research with professors and how soon you can do that. I've had students who, for example, they came up to me during orientation their first year, telling me they had seen the stuff I do on the website with students, and they were interested in participating. And basically that first semester they were here, they were working in my lab with some of the upper level students that were working in my lab, helping them out. And oftentimes by the time they're a junior, they're doing their own research with a faculty member, that type of thing. But it really requires the student to be kind of proactive and want to seek out faculty who are active in their research and talking to them and getting involved in their labs. But it's definitely something that's a good possibility. So.
Yeah, likewise, I've had students across a range of different kind of years start doing research in my lab. A lot of what I do in my lab, it really does help if they have a couple kind of prerequisite courses, whether it's intro bio or even taking genetics, that kind of prepares them better. But for students that I think are very interested and passionate and capable, I'd certainly consider having them in my lab as a younger student, because the advantage for me is then they get to be a very good researcher in my lab, and they can start to be really productive as they stay in my lab over the course of the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see Madison has a question on a typical acceptance rate to U.S. medical schools, and that's a great question, one we get all the time. One of the things about Luther is we don't have what's called a pre-medical admission committee. And there are some institutions who do that, and then they can essentially mandate a tracking process. We don't do that. We allow everybody to apply, and tracking is optional. And so with all of that. And so we don't actually know what our numbers are, to be honest. What we do know is the information we get from the University of Iowa is typically we are at or near the top of in terms of success rate for our applicants for the University of Iowa's program. And so each year it varies a little bit, but often we exceed the University of Iowa's own rate as well. So what I always tell students, though, is if you were to look at acceptance rates, regardless of where you go, it's going to be based on GPA and MCAT scores and your experience. And so, and as I said earlier, there's nothing magic about Luther. Part of it comes down to these, well, you can't see it on here, I stopped sharing my screen, but some of these personal traits about students being proactive and seeking out opportunities and performing really well in their classes and on the MCATs. And so, but we will give you a great preparation. So I know it's not really a great answer what you want to hear, but it's an accurate one. And so our kind of our standard saying is we've never seen anybody not get in who should. Everybody who should get in will get in.
Mm-hmm. I'll add to that. Over the past 10 years, we've averaged over 10 students a year going off to medical school. And so, you know, not only do you ask schools what's their acceptance rate, but how many students a year are actually going to medical school? Because a lot of colleges about our size have a lot fewer than 10 a year.
Right. And there are definitely ways you can manipulate the statistics, which is why we've just never done that. And so, yeah. When do study away opportunities become available for students pursuing their undergraduate degrees? So study away opportunities in terms of, hey, Grace, can you clarify that? Study away opportunities in terms of our J-term experiences? Was that
yeah, kind of like the different ones you're talking about, like you showed the ones with like going like the scuba trip and like the also like the clinical opportunities around the country, just kind of just in general, all of them, I guess.
Yeah, so for study away, usually it'll be your sophomore year or higher. The first year students all have to take a common course on campus, and it's not necessarily a common course, but kind of a common experience. It's a series of different courses centered around all being first year students, and so it kind of gives some commonality to their intro year. After that, though, you're free to apply, and I have for my Roatan trip this next year, I would say at least half the applicants right now are first year students who will be in their second year, and I have them all the way up through their senior year. And so after that, I would say it's your anytime after your first year would be the answer. Now, for some of them, you know, for some of the experiences, we're very limited. Like for our January medical one, we're very limited there, and usually it will be a junior year status, just because there's limited number of positions and a lot of interest, and so typically it's going to be juniors or seniors. But
okay, thank you.
Yeah. You know, I would like, Hannah is on the line. Hannah, is there anything you would like to say? Are there any other questions that you guys would like to direct towards an actual student to talk about besides academics, the Luther experience, what drew her here, anything like that? Hannah, why did you come to Luther?
Luther had a sand volleyball court and a great ice cream shop called Whippy Dip. I also really liked the science program, and one of the great pulls for Luther is that because we can have those close relationships with faculty members, we have more experiences available to us. I've talked to Carlson and Larson about it, opportunities, and I walked into the Career Center within my first week at Luther and asked them, what am I going to be able to do? And every year I was able to find an opportunity which built my resume and was a huge factor for why I got into medical school.
Hannah, where are you going to medical school?
I've chosen to go to Arkansas. It's a DO program, but I myself wanted to do DO more than MD, but I technically got in at 3 other schools in New York, Missouri, and in New Mexico, but Arkansas was the best fit.
What else did you do when you're at Luther, like medical or otherwise?
I was a general chemistry LA, an organic chemistry LA. I was going to be a physiology LA with Carlson, but scheduling got in the way.
And describe what LA is. What do you mean by LA?
LA is a lab assistant. So you can apply for a work study to be a lab assistant. It's a great way to get experience and to get paid and to learn a lot more about what you're doing. I also did some custodial work. I am a resident assistant, so that's your RA and your halls, which is a great way to make money and also build leadership skills. And then I've done a medical internship over J-term at the Winneshiek Hospital in Decorah. I've done a summer shadow program with a cardiologist through the Luther College Alumni Shadow Program, which is a great aspect of Luther to be able to connect with alumni for experiences. And then I've also done a summer research with University of Minnesota, also through the alumni shadowing program.
Hey, Hannah, can you kind of talk a little bit about some of your buddies that are involved in music or athletics that are also in biology or neuroscience that, you know, just kind of talk about how they're able to balance those areas?
Yeah, so people that are in a summer, or not a summer sport, in a sport or heavily involved in music, the way that they're able to do the science portion is that they work with other students. We have study groups, or they work with professors to try to ask additional questions, and they really organize their time well. Luther really prepares you your freshman year to make sure that you are building a good schedule, a good study habit, and it is manageable. It gets stressful, but it's manageable.
Any other questions?
I have a question about advice, like the advisors, like this, the faculty advisors. So like me personally, I'm gonna do like a pre-med focus, but I'm not gonna be like a bio or chem major. I'm gonna be a math major. So I was wondering like who, like would I have like a math faculty advisor as like my main advisor? And I know you touched like students are sent to other like departments to talk about like advising in their departments, but like would I have like a math advisor as my main advisor, or would I have someone from like the medical classes, or yeah.
I would say you would probably have a math advisor, and then you would just have one of us as an informal advisor. I currently have somebody in math who I'm just an informal one, and they have their own advisor, because that's really important, because as you get higher up in the curriculum, it helps to have somebody who really knows the curriculum well to guide you through that. But at the same time, you can easily come to talk to any one of us. So.
All right.
All right, well, I guess I don't see any more hands or anything. So I thank you guys all for taking time out to tune into us today. Feel free to email any one of us, Kirk Larson, Scott Carlson, or Brian Heister, if you have any follow-up questions about any of this. So it was nice to briefly kind of meet with you guys. This is definitely not how we would like to do it, but these are the times. We got to do it right now, and we hope and pray that we can return to some sense of normalcy here. But it's definitely an adventure.
Yeah.